Hey everyone, good morning to you. This is Kelly, the Preparedness Pro, and I have got a great guest for you today. We're going to revolutionize a little bit about how we think about our supplements, the vitamin A, B, C, D. We're going to think differently about that. My guest today is going to turn your preconceived notions on its ear. I've got Michelle Bacarella with me. I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, just because it's all sciencey and I don't want to botch it. But Michelle, I'm really grateful that you decided to appear on our podcast. Thank you so
No, thank you
much.
for having me. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so Michelle, tell us a little bit of science background because we want people to know that
Sure.
you're the real deal here.
I'm a registered dietitian. I have my master's in clinical nutrition, and I have been formulating supplements and functional foods for, oh, I hate to say it, but it's been about 25 years now.
Well, you don't look a day over 25, so you're good.
It's magical. There's a
It's
lot of
all it's the
special
nutrition.
effects.
I'm sure the nutrition plays a key role here. I mean, let's not shorthand
It's
that.
important. It
Yeah.
really, it does affect long term how you look and feel, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, obviously, in the world of preparedness, people talk about stockpiling this and that, but one of the key principles of preparedness is medical preparedness,
Mhm.
physical preparedness. So your health is important. And we are a nation that's just so sick. I mean, heart attacks are the norm, cancer's the norm, diabetes is the norm, obesity is the norm, and we need a wake up call. And so that's why I wanted you on our show today, is to give everyone a wake up call as to what they're doing wrong and how they can fix it, because there is a fix and it's wonderful. It doesn't need to be more expensive than what they're doing now. It can be, when you consider the handoff that you get in terms of the benefits, it's very viable. And not only that, but I think that we need to be concerned to supplement our food that we're putting away in the event of a rainy day. We need to supplement ourselves and that stockpile with nutrition as well. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this topic. I'm very, very passionate about this topic. Can you first, though, I just want to get to know you a little bit better. What inspired your journey into nutrition and dietetics? Was there a light bulb moment that led you to focus on whole food supplements?
Definitely. When I was first starting out in college, I was actually a computer science business major, and I was working at an army base just to put myself through school in their rec center, and that's where they had an opening, so that's where I went. I was really not into exercise at that time. It was about school, and I didn't have the best diet, so I didn't have a ton of energy, but they needed an aerobics instructor. And so they offered to get me certified and they would pay for it. And they would also give me a nice raise. So exercise wasn't on my radar, but I was more than willing to go through the training to get that raise. And during the training, they had a portion on nutrition. And it was so fascinating how I really had not been exposed to it before. And it seems obvious, but how important what we eat and how that affects how we feel and our performance. And it was so fascinating to me. I changed my diet, and I changed my major to dietetics instead. And when I started working in that field, I also got certified to be a personal trainer. And the company I worked for also did supplementation, and it happened to be whole food supplementation. And since I was majoring in dietetics, I really got to work with our clients on their nutrition and then the supplementation. And I could see when they came in, their health, most of them had a chronic disease. They had diabetes, or they had obesity, or cardiovascular disease. They had many issues that they wanted to improve. And I could see before and after. So how were they before the whole food supplementation, and how are they after? And not just subjectively, but also their lab results. Um, and a number of them, it wasn't like they were not taking supplementation already. Most of them were on something, a one-a-day type of vitamin, something, simple like that, and some others, but they were mostly chemically synthesized nutrients that they were taking every day, thinking that they were trying to do a good job. And so I could see the difference between where they began and in their lab results after. And it was so clear how much a difference the whole food supplementation made compared to the synthetically derived nutrients. I switched, my thinking, and I also switched how I would continue my education and what I would do with the rest of my life when it came to nutrition. And I focused on whole food nutrition from that point forward.
Why don't we share with people what's in the synthetic supplements? What's the dead giveaway that you're taking a synthetic supplement? Let's give them a couple of examples.
Sure. It's really simple. If you are looking at a supplement bottle on their supplement facts, or even a functional food, even you're looking at your nutrition facts, when you start seeing chemical names that you really are hard to pronounce, like cyanocobalamin or ascorbic acid, I mean, obviously these are not foods. So if you see those terms, anything that you don't recognize, it's definitely not a food. And that's going to be where, a lot of those will either be antimicrobials or they will be synthetic vitamins and poorly synthesized minerals. So really it's looking at it at two different labels. One where you recognize all the foods, and one where there's a lot of chemical terms that you don't really know what they are. Always stick with the food.
Yeah. What's slowly happening to our bodies when we participate in the synthetic supplements?
It depends on which one. Obviously, they're made differently for each one. But the problem with the synthetically derived is that they are isolates. And in nature, our vitamins and minerals are a complex. So these isolates, they might work in some fashion, but they really need the rest of their complex to work appropriately. For example, vitamin C. So vitamin C is not just ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is the core, but there are a lot of phytonutrients, bioflavonoids, that work in conjunction with that ascorbic acid to function in your body. It's almost like picture an egg. So you get the shell of the egg when you have an ascorbic acid versus a whole food, but all of the inside of the egg, all of those nutrients, that the protein, everything else is gone. So you can absorb those chemically derived nutrients, but your body has a problem utilizing them. And because they are chemicals, it depends on which one and how they're made, that can cause issues long-term as well.
Yeah. Who wants to spend money on supplements only to have them be chemicals in your body? I mean, don't we get enough chemicals in our body, for crying out loud? So the whole foods. Now, let's take this back even a little bit further. Why do we need to supplement? What's so important about that?
Well, back about 50, 60 years, people had whole food, and the nutrients were actually different because of farming and the processing that they do now with our food, and everything is it's so large. It's not back up to the gardens that they used to have, but they're more, I would say it depends on the food, but some are they had 10 times more nutrients 50 years ago than they do now, because now it's not about just growing that nutrient. They had their own natural fertilizers from the previous, from their own foods that they added to their gardens. And they would change the acreage and they would move things around, but now it's about profit. So they want the sturdiest fruits and vegetables. They want something that's going to last on the shelf longer. They want whatever they can make the most of that's going to resist pests. And it's not about nutritional content. It's about how they can make sure that they're making as much money as they can make, which I understand, from their point of view as a business, that's what they need to do. But unfortunately, we're getting much less nutrients from our foods than we used to. So even someone that's trying to eat better, it's going to be more difficult just based on the food supply, especially in the United States.
Yeah, and in a crisis situation where you're living off of shelf-stable foods, foods that have been canned or freeze-dried or dehydrated, they've lost some of their nutrients in that process. Not all of them. I mean, freeze-dried foods do a better job of maintaining their nutrients, but
They do
canned
better.
foods and dehydrated, they've lost a substantial amount of their nutrients. So it's all the more important that you supplement if you're planning on having to live off of what you stock up on your shelves someday.
Definitely. You're just not going to be able to get all of the nutrients that you need from shelf-stable foods of that type. The canned, the typically dehydrated. Freeze-dried is better for sure. But it's still a very long process that does destroy a number of the nutrients that would be naturally present.
So, what are the best ways to store whole food supplements to ensure their longevity and their potency in somebody's stockpile?
Sure. It depends. There are a number of products out there that are very shelf stable that include those whole food vitamin mineral concentrates. And I know for someone out there, they're probably thinking, well, how do I even get those? What are they talking about? Where would those come from? There are some companies that utilize these concentrates in their products. For example, Moxie Life is a company for triathletes, believe it or not. And they have a number of electrolyte beverages. And one of them includes the vitamin mineral blend that is just from fruits and vegetables like kale and broccoli. Also, Umi, UMMY, it has a kid's shake. It's a ready to drink, but it's shelf stable. And the one I really like, it's called To Do, TODO. So I think the website's like Drink To Do. But they have those whole food concentrates in a ready to drink, but it also contains protein and prebiotics, and fiber, so that it really has everything, and that's shelf stable, but it's a ready to drink. And they even have one for dogs. It's called, where's that? Whole Dog, and at DOGG, they use the whole food vitamin mineral concentrates. And recently, I'm really excited. So since 2009, in all my formulations, I've formulated for a number of different brands. I've always focused on whole food. It has been difficult to find those concentrated whole food vitamins and minerals from fruits and vegetables because I would say 90% of the industry is going to be chemically derived. That's just what's out there in our supplementation, not just supplementation, but in all of our foods too. If you look at a box of cereal, pretty much any box of cereal, and it's going to have 25%, 15% of the RDA of every single vitamin and mineral. And then you read the ingredients and it's all those chemicals again. So it's not just in supplements that you buy. Those same chemically derived nutrients are in most of our foods too, are those processed foods, not the whole foods, but those processed foods that, your crackers, your cereals, those type of products. And so I've always used a company, it's called Nutrifusion, and they've concentrated those vitamins and minerals from broccoli and kale and spinach. And since 2009, I've always, because that to me that's the gold standard, and so I've used them in all of my formulations. And just recently, there's, there are many types of whole food supplements. Before I get into the other, you have that I use that are from fruits and vegetables. They have some that are from yeast, nutritional yeast that are used. And they have some others from like herbs that they'll use. Particularly for me and my formulations, I've always gone for the fruits and vegetables because that's what our body is made to use. It really is common sense. Your body was made to use these fruits and vegetables to get your nutrients and your energy, and not these other types of it. Definitely not chemicals, but that look like food. But so I want to use what our body uses most of, and so now it came on board to Nutrifusion, and I'm head of their product development and innovation, so that I can help companies like Moxie Life and To Do and Umi to really use what is best for the consumer. And that does take some education. It does, because this is what we've had for years and years and years. And although it's common sense, yes, more fruits and vegetables are definitely better. We all know that, the research shows it time and time again, but it does take a little bit extra education. So as their head of product development and innovation, I can really get that education out there, and with people like you, Colleen, too, to really call that out, because I think you don't know what you don't know, and
Right.
most people are just not learning about it, even though it's been out there since 2009. I've been using these nutrients, but still the market is mostly chemically synthesized vitamins and minerals.
Yeah, and that's kind of was a scary wake up call for me. But now I'm always on a quest. Whole food. I want whole food, and I don't mind the herbs, and nutritional yeast as well. But I definitely want that whole food. Ascorbic acid is only 1/6 of the compounds in vitamin C. That's like me just eating the eggshell and saying I had eggs for breakfast.
Exactly.
It just doesn't cut it. Synthetics last as long as pharmaceuticals do. The DoD and FEMA did a study several years ago and discovered that your pharmaceuticals can actually last, the majority of them can actually last 110 months in storage in cool, dry conditions. Your synthetic supplements do the same. And so to me, I'm thinking, I don't want poisons that'll that have this long shelf life. I want good shelf stable ingredients, but you can find whole food supplements that have a great shelf life, and you should be rotating through what you're buying anyway.
Exactly.
So let's talk about some conditions that you've seen rectified with whole food supplements.
Oh gosh, there have been many, many, many. One stands out for me. But like I said, every single day, I worked with so many different patients and clients, and looking at the before and afters for a number of conditions. That's a lot when it comes to weight. But there was a young man that was in a terrible, terrible accident, and he was in the hospital and had to have enteral feeding, which is basically they can't eat by mouth, so they have tube feedings. And so they can still have somewhat foods, but they are not able to swallow their other issues. And he was very, very ill. And they had placed him on an enteral feeding, and his health declined rapidly, because tube feedings are made from those chemically derived nutrients, the same ones that we are exposed to in everything every single day. And he rapidly declined. And his parents had been using at home one of the powdered beverage with these whole food concentrates in it. And they knew the difference. And it took a while, but after begging and begging the doctors to switch to that powdered beverage that they added to water and they put in the tube feedings for their son, it was like an immediate switch. He improved, he got better, he could leave the hospital. And they really the doctors did not think he would leave the hospital. And just making that change, it was miraculous. That was the only thing they did differently, was taking him off the previous two feedings and placing him on a whole food. And that's amazing.
I submit that's because our bodies are miraculous, and we give them the right tools. It knows what to do with the right tools. We give it red dye number 3, and it's like, what the heck is this? And it causes all kinds of problems. We give it ascorbic acid, and it's like, this is familiar, but it's still not, what the body needs. What's the biggest misconception that people have about supplements, would you say?
I would say that the biggest one right now that we touched on is that they're all the same, because they all do look the same unless you're comparing it to a whole food supplement. And so people are looking at price. They walk into a health food store, they walk into their grocery store, and they're just going to grab whichever cost the least, without realizing that. And then there's no one there to educate, but not realizing that, yes, the whole food supplement does cost more. It is more expensive. It's much cheaper to make the chemically synthesized vitamins and minerals versus doing a whole food concentrate. So it is more expensive, but they're not seeing the difference that that makes in their bodies, and really the importance of it. So I think that the most misconception is that they're all the same, when there's a much better choice out there.
Well, I have found that while the whole food supplement price tag may be higher, what it can take off of my plate in terms of medications, because I'm doing the whole food supplements, or what it can take off my plate in terms of copays because I don't have the same health issues,
Right.
it's actually less expensive. And I want long term. You've got to think about your health long term. I think people don't realize that. They're like, well, it's helping me for right now, or they just live in the moment with their health. And then when they realize that they have a health issue, they think that they have a health crisis, when in actuality they had a food crisis.
Right. Well, and people, they get so used to how they're feeling. They think it's aging. They are tired because they work so much, just like I did even when I was younger. They don't realize how good they could feel and how great they're supposed to feel when they're getting the right nutrition. They're just accepting that this is how it's supposed to be, and it's really not. At any age, you can improve how you're feeling just by changing how you're eating and what you're taking.
Yeah, my mom always says you never understand how sick you are until you try to get healthy. And then when you have something to compare it to, it really is outstanding. Are there some trendy ingredients or superfoods and supplements that you think are overhyped, or are there ones that truly live up to their reputation?
I wouldn't say this is trendy because it does seem kind of obvious, but anything with berries. Honestly, berries really are a superfood. So not only are they, so really anything that include, and it could be any berry, it could be a blueberry, cranberry, raspberry. They are so potent with antioxidants and vitamins and minerals. They're very anti-inflammatory. They're so preventative with a number of diseases, just with overall aging and memory. I would say berries are your best bet. In whatever product you buy, look for berries.
Wonderful. That's good to know. Cranberries, etc. That's wonderful. So,
Any
you've worked with people facing both acute and chronic health challenges. How can the whole food supplements play a role in long-term health resilience, especially for those who might not have access to medical care during emergencies?
Right. Well, it's definitely important to try to be in your best health always. We never know when these emergency situations are going to come up. So getting in those nutrients every day before, just on a daily basis is so important. And with those certain types of, whether it be a chronic or acute type of injury, having those extra nutrients on hand, because you're going to have much higher nutrient needs for those situations. But still, whether it be diabetes, if you're on any medications, whether you change your diet or you start a supplementation, there's so many contraindications when it comes to medications. It could be with any food. There are so many medications out there that have so many problems with them and they're susceptible to contraindications, and not just with the medications, but just having a certain illness. There could be a food that would be disruptive to you. So before doing anything, before adding supplementation, before changing your diet, really should talk to your healthcare practitioner to make sure that's a smart choice. It might seem benign, but grapefruit juice, that seems really healthy. All the bioflavonoids and grapefruits are great, but there are so many medications that really disrupt how they function because of grapefruit juice. So you have to be really careful.
Yeah, I know that grapefruit essential oil, I know some of its impacts, and it's pretty strong. Yeah, that would definitely thwart how a medication would work. Yeah, definitely. What about What about for people who are starting their journey into self-reliance? What simple steps can they take to transition from synthetic to whole food supplements without feeling overwhelmed?
You know, the one that I love that is super, super easy, I think, is greens. So powdered greens, for example.
Mhm.
Greens are essentially just, that when I say greens, that could be wheatgrass and spirulina and moringa. They are naturally dense in vitamins and minerals, and broccoli and spinach. Uh, but a powdered version of that, because it stores for 2 years. So it's great for food storage, but it's really something important to have every single day. And my favorite one is Optivita is the company, Optivita Health, and they have a complete essentials that has all of your greens. It has a whole food vitamin mineral complex that's again all from whole foods, but also enzymes and probiotics. But it's super easy, so anyone can mix this with water and drink it every day. So I think that isn't, not having to again, look at your labels. If you want a different, I recommend green strengths, but some green strengths do contain synthetic vitamins and minerals. So check your labels, make sure that you recognize all of the ingredients, and go from there. I think that's the easiest, quickest way to start.
So let's say you're a prepper, Michelle, okay? And you're going to stockpile 5 whole foods. What would be your 5 favorites?
Supplements or products that you can purchase, or you're talking just
Yeah,
on the
supplements.
shelf or
Yeah.
supplements? I would say, and I drink it myself every day. I really do like the Optivita, the Complete Essentials Green Drink. So I do that every single day. They also have capsules. Now there are some people who do not want to do a green drink. This is actually very tasty, so it tastes really good. But they also, Optivita Health has capsules that are whole food. And then another great thing is, if I could have also, it takes up more space, so it's not as compact, but those ready to drinks, because they have the protein, they have the prebiotics, so they have everything. And so in food storage, that was wonderful. They're shelf stable to have on hand. Not so easy. If you have to throw something in a backpack and go, then definitely I would go with the greens. And then, so I like those. And I like the Moxie Life electrolytes, because again, you just add water, and hydration's typically, that's going to be key when you're in an emergency situation. That's always an issue. So I would say those that I had mentioned before, those have always been my favorite.
Okay, good. Good to know what you do yourself too. Do you do the dog product for your dogs?
I just found out about that. So I
Oh,
do personally, I formulate pet products as well. So in my lab back here, I have all the whole food concentrates, and I give those to my dogs every day. So I mix up some, and they enjoy it. And so the whole dog is a food topper, and I haven't got it yet. Since I just found out about it. So in the lab, I'll take the dehydrated fruits and vegetables. Sometimes I'll add some greens, some enzymes from probiotics, and I just mix it up for them every day. They love it, and I know that they're getting. If we go into dog food, that's a whole nother hour,
yeah.
conversation about what is lacking. You think our food is bad, so that's a whole nother story. But for them, whole dog is the product that I know has it right now, and then I make up my own.
Well, you can do that given your
Yes, I'm very
expertise.
lucky. I'm very blessed. Have it right
What's
there. So,
That's right. I give my dogs the Beam minerals from fulvic and humic minerals.
okay.
And I also feed them. I have some spirulina and chlorella tablets that I
Oh,
take
nice.
regularly, and they love chomping those down. They chomp those. They think those are treats.
They do. I
So
mean,
I
they
give
taste
them
good
that.
for sure.
Yeah, they love them.
To them,
So, what's one piece of advice that you'd give preppers about maintaining their health when resources are limited?
really, definitely, as we've discussed throughout this whole conversation, is having those whole food concentrates in your stockpile, because it's the foods that you have they're pretty low in nutrients, and you need those calories, you need the protein, you've got to have that. but when it comes to nutrition, they're not the highest. And to have those extras, you're going to need those. You're going to be in a high stress situation. You're going to even need more than you typically would need. So I would say have those handy. They don't take up that much space for sure.
Yeah. So looking ahead, how do you see the role of whole food supplements evolving in both everyday health and emergency preparedness?
Well, I think that more and more people are they're more educated about nutrition now, and they're paying attention. More people are reading labels, and more and more research is coming out about how, whole food vitamin C versus synthetic and how that works with disease. And as those things come out and the media talks about it more, I only see it becoming more and more prevalent for the general population when it comes to whole food. So I really do think it will expand. And as that expands, as more companies bring those into their products, because again, they're seeing that they're more effective. They actually, when I've added them to functional foods, those whole food concentrates actually extend the shelf life of the food because of all the antioxidants that are naturally present. So I think that there'll be more available, and I think it's only going to grow.
How do whole food supplements obesity? We had mentioned that.
Oh, how they affect obesity. It's very interesting, but and how you touched on, if you give your body what it needs, it can heal itself in a lot of instances. When it comes to obesity, when you give your body the nutrients that it needs, a lot of those cravings go down. So you're not as hungry. Your body will signal you that, hey, I could use some more vitamins and minerals here. And so you get really hungry. A lot of people, unfortunately, will grab the quickest thing that is available, and they might satiate the feeling of fullness in their stomach, but they haven't given their body what it needs. So you're going to have more and more cravings, and you're going to have that until the body is nutritionally filled. So a lot of people will overeat and overeat and overeat. But once you give your body what it needs, a lot of those cravings go away, and people naturally eat less. So they naturally lose weight. And that's what I've noticed a lot, whether that was the intention or not. A lot of people, when they start whole food supplementation, lose weight just because they're not eating as much as they were before.
Yeah. I also know I discovered through some research that with whole food supplements and peppermint essential oil, quality peppermint essential oil, not something you're going to get in Walmart, will actually reduce your carbohydrate cravings, and it even makes them taste differently if you regularly do the peppermint essential oil. So I like to combine that with the whole food supplements. I want XYZ sandwich, but then when I taste it after having peppermint essential oil, it just does not taste good anymore, and I lose my appetite for it. It's very interesting, but I combine those two in order to maintain the weight that I've lost. I also subscribe to intermittent fasting. I mean, you combine intermittent fasting and whole food supplements, you're living high on the hog. You've got so many good things going for you in your body when that happens.
And and the peppermint's very interesting. And what people don't realize too is our taste buds will change. So if you get a whole new set of taste buds every 3 weeks, every 21 days, if you change your diet and what you're eating in 21 days, that is what you will prefer. You will crave those things. Again, if you change it in a bad way, that it will go towards that as well. But you can train your body to crave whole food, to crave, your fruits and your vegetables and things that are really good for you. You just have to stick it out for 21 days. And I really think that your listeners should try that they can really improve their nutrition just by making that little change.
Well, I like leaving on a high note. That sounds like a great challenge for our listeners. Thank you again so much for being with us, Michelle. I greatly appreciate it. And I appreciate your insight and your expertise. Keep formulating those great versions that you've got and that you've shared with us. And thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.